Good evening. The news gang is here. An identity crisis, or is it the truth, the half-truths, the non-truths about that thing called Huduma number? Dodgy degrees, the public universities that are excelling in putting the cart before the horse, even way after the horse has bolted. Also tonight, lots of referendum answers in the air, but where is the question? We'll also take a look at that sea of confusion over a little piece of land in the Indian Ocean. Let's begin, though, with that raging controversy about the Huduma number. And I spoke to the PS Karanja Kibicho just a short while ago on the program. But first, let me take you to where it all began when the president made that announcement in January, a month ago.
My administration will complete a central master population database, which will be the authentic single source of truth on personal identity in Kenya, and this database will contain information on all Kenyan citizens, as well as foreign nationals residing in our republic. For each registration, the National Integrated Identity Management System, better referred to as NIMS, will generate a unique identification number that will be known as the Huduma number.
That was the president a month ago. Just a few minutes ago, I had the PS Karanja Kibicho clarifying all of the issues that have come up since the launch of this. Are you now better than you were before, Linus? Do you understand the issues a little bit more now?
The problem is big, especially out there in the public. People are still trying to figure out what do you mean by this biometric registration process. What is the difference between the Huduma number and the national identity card? And I listened to the PS very carefully this evening, and was talking about an integrated system that will help the government guard against impersonation and fraud, also enhance access to government services. I don't know what exactly this last bit about enhancing access to government services is about, but if I understood well, it means that with this one card, you will be able to get to take care of things like the driving license, to take care of things like the National Hospital Insurance Fund card, and also probably the national passport. I really hope that is what it means. But clearly, even from listening to the PS this evening, there's a lot of public mass education that needs to go into process between now and the 15th, when they start running the pilot in how many counties was it?
Yeah,
several counties, yes. That includes my county of Kajiado. And people are looking forward to, first of all, getting the information and understanding what this means.
Francis, do we understand?
The problem with this discussion is, first of all, you must carry with you the entire population. If you don't, if there are any doubts, if there are any questions that remain unanswered, then it's an effort in futility. Look, Kenyans are accustomed to big projects, sounding very necessary, mind-boggling in terms of the cost, but ultimately, they end up being a scandal. You've heard stories time and again of vendor-driven projects. I hope this is not one of them, because some years back, if you retrace your mind, you remember the Anglo leasing scam. Part of it was an integrated technology-driven forensic, those big words. So if you can explain it nicely to Kenyans, because it is meant for them. It is data coming from them. It is meant to make their lives easier, access services in an easier manner. If you can buy them in, you're safe. If you don't, if there are any questions, then that is the beginning of a very long process. And could also include a very big eating avenue.
Speaking about eating, Yvonne, Joseph, if I may, this project is worth 6 billion shillings.
Right.
And
at the pilot level.
At the pilot level. Yes. We've not even gone to the actual 45 days that we're expecting to start registering people come March this year. 6 billion shillings. And one of the issues that came up with this, and you talk about people being included, is that there was no public participation that was done. People know nothing about what this is. Even with the stories in the newspaper, someone goes to the chief's office in their sub-location and they get registered, they still don't understand what it is all about. Yvonne, if you'll allow me, I'd like us, Robert, to play what the residents in Kisumu were talking about when they went to register themselves just yesterday.
Namba ni najua ni pini ya kutoa pesa hata kwa bank.
Ni namba ya kipande. Ni namba ya kipande.
Sijui ku-explain juu sijakuwa nayo. Ndio nataka nikuwe nayo ndio nijue ni inasaidia aje.
Sijajua vizuri but nimekuja nisikie ni nini tunajiandikisha.
You see, those are residents of Kisumu. Yeah. They have no idea what this is about. They just know they're supposed to go register themselves and get a card. And it's not something you're going to get immediately because they have to do due diligence. They have to confirm that the information you've given them is what they have in their database in terms of someone who has maybe has an ID, a driving license, a passport before you get that card. And I think this is one big challenge that we are having with this system.
And the one question about public participation, Joe, you are a big proponent of this or have understood this matter, even in environmental circles in which you have reported extensively, which is your area. I mean, public participation, what does that entail? You know, because when I asked him, he said, well, we've been doing a lot behind the scenes. We've been meeting almost weekly since 2018, but that's what's happening there. What would public participation entail in a process like this?
Well, public participation, Yvonne, is one of our national values, actually, that in our constitution, and it goes beyond just informing people. Right. It goes to, there are many different levels, but it goes to a point of engagement where people are actually playing a part in this decision making. They understand. It's not even just collecting a group of people and telling them about the benefits of a system. But I think what for me stands out in this is I don't think the government is surprised or should be surprised about the controversy about this. I mean, the world over, anything that involves taking people's private information and keeping a large number of those records somewhere, it gives people the jitters. That happens around the world. Right. But I think also in this country, technology appears to be jinxed. There's a sense in which people think technology, they think about scandal.
Elections.
Right? Yeah, and I mean, you can name all manner of things that have happened. So there is the scandal part, but there's also just this fuzziness about information. If you think about things like the CCTV project, Safaricom, if you think about the laptops, which was grounded even before it took off. If you think about, there was also something about cashless matatu, something. Yes. I don't know whatever became of that.
Which the president launched, right?
And then there was there's been the whole IEBC thing where every time we argue about computers and vifaranga via computer and those things, there's just a whole scandal that every time we have a project that involves this big technologically driven thing, then people begin to have doubts about whether it's going to work or not, which is why I think that the government needed to have done more and still needs to do more now to explain to people what this is really all about and debunk all the fears that people have, because right now a lot of people are worried, and genuinely so, about this fuzziness about the information regarding this seemingly very expensive and also a very big project that will suddenly just immediately it goes online, each one of our records will be sitting somewhere, and there are many questions about
talking of information, Yvonne, one piece of information that really needs to come out very clearly is the enormity of this exercise. It's a massive exercise, no doubt. And you heard the PS, and there is info as well circulated by government, talking about registration centers that will include homes, mobile registration centers. Yes. There'll be registration in hospitals. This thing is so massive that one would wonder why it was not pegged to the upcoming census.
Yes.
So that the officials you are sending out for the census
can go and do
exactly the same exercise. And it's being described as a simple exercise in terms of what then happens once it starts. You're just supposed to show one form of identification, either your ID, your passport, your driving license, or PIN number. So why not, for the sake of the numbers that you are raising there about how much this costs, why was it not tied to the census?
When you're talking about a scandal, Joseph mentioned it, there was an issue last year during the procurement for the farm that was going to provide these biometrics. There was no open procurement that was done. There were 3 companies that were identified, and I'll name one of them. It used to be called OT Morpho at some point, changed to Saffron Morpho, and now it's called Idemia. That's the company that was given this tender to supply the 31,000 kits that we are going to use. Now, the other 2 companies was one called IBC. Yes. Now, the other 2 companies were Copernic of France and Credence ID of the USA. So there's a lot of questions about how come they picked only these 3 companies and not have an open tender. Someone may say maybe there's something called...
Today there was no foreign company. All of them were Kenyans. When pressed to answer the questions as to, okay, who were these people, and you know, just to be a little bit more open with the process, and that is the challenge. But here's the thing: for Kenyans whom you are asking, senior citizens, like I said in the interview, are being asked to go and register. Students are getting that unique personal identification number that takes them through school. And then after the age of 6, then you're getting the Huduma number, and then there is a census coming up. I mean, I think at the very least it would be prudent to answer the questions and to do a lot more listening than, you know, rebuttal.
Of just how many unique numbers
just how many unique
they're
numbers.
But I think it's important for us to underscore that if what the government says is a reason why this is being put together, for example, creating a single source of personal information for all Kenyans and making it easier to access information, I mean, that's really important. I mean, even in the US, you have the social security system that sort of has everybody's records somewhere. And I think what needs to happen is for there to be a more candid explanation about what this is going to be, how it's going to work, and to continually keep reassuring people about the fears that people may have about this, and also the transparency issues about cost, why it cannot be done in a cheaper way, why it cannot be bundled together with the census and that sort of thing. Because I think that it looks to me that the reason why they are doing this is going to be lost in all these conversations because there hasn't been engagement.
Good intentions, good intentions, but clothed in a lot of controversy and mistrust. And that is where the trouble begins. Look, when you threaten people that if you don't, you're not going to get government services. So what are you saying?
Which is their right anyway.
So first, people will tend to ask, so why are you looking like you're forcing us?
Why are you threatening us?
First explain to people, show them why this is important for you, why it will make service delivery easier, why this is an important exercise. Once you do that, actually it is people who will now see the sense in what you're doing. But when you tell people, if you don't, you won't, then there is a problem there. And expect a lot of litigation in court.
Which has already
begun. Because at the very heart of it is public participation. And as Lina says, this is one of our national values. And Kenyans are accustomed to these mega sounding projects that often end up in mega scams.
But let me, just as we close, raise the issues of data security. You know, it is very important. We are in a technological age. Facebook has been facing censure in European nations. In fact, forget what is happening with Facebook in Europe. Anyone remember Cambridge Analytica during the election, where everybody said that they were sort of here to gather data and use it for intentions other than what was intended? We were unable to hold Cambridge Analytica accountable here. They have been found and fined. In fact, the company is now wound up in other jurisdictions because they have laws to govern this sorts of thing. Here, we don't have a data law. So the question is, if, Francis, you are the one in charge of this data and you misuse the data and you sell it to private companies, what law is there to hold you to account for that? And further, even in some of the countries where we're saying it probably has worked, let's take a look at India. India is actually having serious problems with project just like this. It's called Aadhaar, and there are so many controversies surrounding
for everything.
Yes,
it's not working.
Against discrimination. A lot of people in this country who have felt the need that they don't belong will feel profiled. How will you use this information? What if at some point you decide? I mean, and we've seen things like Somalis feeling profiled or others. And now that you have all of this data, what then can you use it for? And I guess it's just the law to safeguard these sorts of breaches. And one cannot say there will be no system breaches. Another thing is to talk about what if the system breaks down? I mean, take a look at Safaricom. When M-Pesa goes down, the whole country, in fact, they're even summoned to Parliament. Now you have a big data system like this. If it breaks down, at the point where it is needed the most,
50 million
what
people,
happens
information
then?
about
So we're in the
50 million
information
people.
age. We're going digital with this government, but then also the laws aren't moving in tandem with
When
that.
you have multiple registrations such as this one, does it make us more digital? What is more digital? Isn't it integrating these processes such that, one, there's prudent management of public resources, which is a key value in our constitution. If you have multiple functions happening and they are very costly, like we have a census coming in, I think we need to manage our resources better. And this is also a country where the president yesterday was telling nurses, can't pay, won't pay. I mean, we don't have enough money to pay you guys, but we have about 6 billion shillings to pilot a registration and another upcoming census a few months later. So I think we need to deal with our resources better, manage them better,
an issue of priority.
Make sure that ultimately the resources that we have are prudently managed, and Kenyans feel that our resources have been well used without necessarily sounding that like people are being forced to do.
Exactly.